Good morning. My name is Milda and I will be chairing this session. I am the president of International Society for the Study of New Religions, which is co-organizing this conference together with other organizers. And I would like to welcome you to this great event for the scholars of new religions from all over the world. We are used now to gather together every year on this CESNUR Conference occasions, and I'm happy that this year we are hosted by Leer Institute and our great colleagues from Israel. Today, I have an honor to present you the second plenary, which is entitled Holy City, Jerusalem in New Religious Movements. And we will have three speakers. Eileen BARKER will be talking on Beholding New Jerusalems, Holy Lands, Holy Cities, Holy Grounds, and Holy Hopes. Eileen BARKER is Professor Emeritus from London School of Economics and Political Science, and also is a founder of Inform, the organization which is informing society about new religions objectively, and doing it for more than 25 years now. Eileen, the floor is yours. Yeah.
Good morning, I think. I've always said never apologize, so I'll just warn you. I have been awake for the last 148 hours, wearing these clothes. I'm in a very bad temper. I don't know how long I can stay standing. And I thought I was going to open this conference with a slightly frothy tour. And now you've already started and doing serious stuff. And I haven't had a chance to read through my PowerPoint, but I'll speak for half an hour, perhaps. If I don't, you'll understand why. Revelation chapter 22, verses 1, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. Later on I'm not going to read the whole of Revelation. And the one who spoke with me had a measuring rod of gold to measure the city and its gates and walls. And the city lies 4 square, its length the same as its width. And he measured the city with his rod, 12,000 stadia. James will probably tell us what that is. Its length and width and height are equal. And this is one of my favorite pictures of the New Jerusalem. But there are all sorts of other ones. But this square is a common feature. This is a more complicated one, and I haven't got time to go through it all, but you can see that people do spend a lot of time. It's a bit like Noah's Ark, working out what the New Jerusalem is. How do you fit in the 2x2s, and how do you, where's God and where's Jesus and everything? Anyway, it's all explained if you want to read it. This is another version. Here's yet another one. This is the Armageddon of the children of God. Again, we've got to I knew I'd be like this, Revelation. And this is their vision of paradise. This is another vision of paradise. This is the sort of thing I always saw in Sunday school as a child. And as you know, Jerusalem is divided into, well, they call them 4 quarters. There's the Muslim, the Christian, which includes, or doesn't include the Armenian quarter, and the Jewish. This, as you probably all know, is the Western Wall, known as the Wailing Wall, and behind it is the Dome of the Rock. Here is the Western Wall with people praying at it. The Dome of the Rock. This is part of the Arab quarter, and this is part of the clutter and bustle that exists in the Arab quarter. The Via della Rosa, which Jesus goes through the Arab quarter. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre. These are all very holy places to the three Abrahamic traditions. Inside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The Holy Sepulchre is divided into a whole lot of different parts, and the different Christian communities are always squabbling over them as to who should dust a window ledge or something. I won't read it all through, but you can see there, and actually it's different levels. For example, the Armenian bit is up on high, but there are shared bits as well. So it's very, very complicated. Catholics, all sorts of different kinds of Catholics. These are some Franciscans. There are the Greek Orthodox. There are the Coptic priests. The Maronites, they've got a lovely hostel, which has about the best view of Jerusalem on its roof. These are some Druze. And then we've got the New Age Judaism, or Jew Age, sometimes it's called. And there's, I think, a very interesting book that some of you may have read and contributed to, indeed, about contemporary alternative spiritualities in Israel. And to take one quote from it, the transformation of the land from a symbol of nationhood to a symbol of nature and local indigenous spiritualities coincides with existing schisms in Israeli identity regarding place, belonging, and indigenousness. And I hope you'll all buy and read that book, certainly that chapter. There are lots of places for pilgrims. There are hundreds of pilgrims always coming to Jerusalem, the old Jerusalem. Lots of these are very pleasant to stay in. Here's the YMCA. Here's the Austrian Hospice. Here's St. Andrew's Scottish Guest House. Stayed at all these. The Armenian Church of St. James. If you get a chance, that's very well worth going and seeing. Those tiles don't show up very well there, but they are beautiful. Here are some Armenian priests coming out of the convent. They've got a seminary. There are some of the seminarians. There's the Ararat. There's a very quiet bit in Jerusalem. There are quiet bits in Jerusalem. This is a lovely bit I found several years ago, which is very, very peaceful. And it's complete, well, it's only a few hundred yards from the Arab quarter, Ararat Street. Now, Ararat Street is because the Armenians, although they've got a quarter here, and Jerusalem is very important to them for a lot of reasons, also have another place that is very important. Well, they've got several, but one of them is Mount Ararat. Echmiadzin is another one. And we can't just think of Jerusalem as being the only place, except perhaps for the Jews. Then there have been a whole lot of missionaries. This is Dr. Vartan of Nazareth, who is a missionary, who started up the hospital in Nazareth. This was 160 years ago, and it's that was started by my great-grandfather as a matter of interest. And this is the church in Tiberias, the mission hospital, which was run by my grandfather. That's all the family history you're getting, but they're interesting bits of how people came from all over the world. And the holy city, the Holy Land was very important in Jerusalem, the central bit of it. But there are other bits. This is Bethlehem, where Jesus was meant to be born. It doesn't look very like a manger, but there we go. This is also Bethlehem. It isn't only the Arab quarter that sells this sort of thing. But this is another aspect of Bethlehem, the wall. And the Palestinians have to queue to get to the other side. That takes us to remembering the intifadas, the first intifada in the late 80s and early 90s, the second intifada in 2000. I was here then. And people are asking, is there going to be a third intifada? There are ultra-Orthodox Jews in Jerusalem who are fighting against the idea of the Israeli state, and we'll probably be hearing quite a lot of this. Here they're burning a flag, here an effigy of a soldier, here they're demonstrating because a draft dodger has been arrested. Here they're saying Free Palestine. This is actually in Trafalgar Square in London. They don't just protest in Jerusalem. Other people protest about Jerusalem. What's so special about Israel? A Christian perspective. This is the Concerned Christians. As the year 2000 came up, the police here were very worried about what might be going to happen, particularly with the Christians. And the Concerned Christians were one of the groups that they were very suspicious about, and they got rid of them. They sent them to England. Then we got rid of them, and we don't quite know where they are now. And actually, nothing very much happened. A man dressed up as Mary Magdalene and hung himself from the Damascus Gate, I think, but that's about all. And then we've got things like the new message from the airlift. I won't read this through to you because I've got less time than I thought. But the Raelians are hoping to build an embassy for the gods to come near Jerusalem to create Israel. This is a UFO cult that you may have heard of, which is particularly strong in France and French Canada. 12 Tribes community, we'll be hearing quite a bit about them. This is the New Jerusalem Monastery in Romania, a few miles north of Bucharest. It's a beautiful place, designed and built by a sculptor and his followers. You can't go in it unless you are a nun or a monk, but they do have a bit outside, and they make all these fantastic things and sculpting. Church of Almighty God is something that some of us have been interested in recently, also known as Eastern Lightning. And I had to read in one of their seminars that they do over Skype with sociologists who are interested, this thing. And the holy city, New Jerusalem, comes down from God, out of heaven, out of heaven. And I won't read it all, but I had to read it all. And it went on for quite a long time. But it was very Jerusalem, New Jerusalem concentrated. And this is a Japanese group. It's the one that became well known when one of the followers, reputed followers, murdered somebody in a McDonald's in China. Did I say Japanese? It's Chinese, sorry. Wake up, Eileen. A Chinese movement. Then, of course, there are the other centers of the other faiths, Mecca, most obviously, Sikh, Amritsar. It doesn't have to be cities or places. It can be mountains, like Mount Fuji, or sacred lands like Glastonbury, or, sorry, that was Stonehenge. That's Glastonbury Tor. The Ganges, of course, is a very sacred place for a non-Abrahamic faith. There's Varanasi or Benares, the Ghats. Vrindavan is also a very important place for the Hindus. And the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, the Hare Krishna, built this wonderful ashram in Vrindavan. I haven't seen it finished. I stayed in it when they were still building it. But why I'm including this here is that Prabhupada, the founder of ISKCON, wrote to one of his devotees called Kirtananda, who had visited Vrindavan in India, and shut up. Oh no, and Kirtananda was sick. He had a tummy bug or something and didn't like Vrindavan very much. And he went back to West Virginia, and Prabhupada wrote and said, Krishna provided you with a nice plot of land in West Virginia, and it's due to his causeless, unlimited mercy upon you. Krishna is so kind that you went to Indian Vrindavan, but you didn't like that particular place somehow or other. And therefore, he has so kindly awarded so nice a piece of land, exactly resembling Vrindavan. It's nothing like Vrindavan. We should always know that Vrindavan is not a localized in a particular area, but that wherever Krishna is. Now, New Jerusalem, in a sense, I can't elaborate on this, but I think it's quite interesting that this founder, leader, for whom Vrindavan was incredibly important, should say, but Krishna can go there. It reminded me a bit of the Japanese kami, who have their own little houses and places in different spots in Japan where they're meant to live. But when you get them going to Brazil, the kami sort of are there at the same time. And there is a theology that works it all out. And I think sort of the New Jerusalem, or the present Jerusalem, is a bit like that. And behold the new Vrindavan. That's what Ketananda wrote. Another movement, new religious movement, that's been very interested, as almost all of them, in Jerusalem is the Unification Church. And here's one of their big gatherings. I don't know how easy it is to see, but that's actually the western wall at the back. It's a bit easier to see there, I think. Big gatherings they've had. And they've got an enormous theology connected with Jerusalem. Now, that's not Jerusalem. It's Washington. And this is Reverend and Mrs. Moon getting crowned. But why I've put that in is that Moon later said, you don't know how serious the coronation was in history. And if you read this, you'll find out why. If that didn't happen, then there was a possibility that an atomic bomb would have been dropped on the Gaza Strip. And he goes on to explain, which I won't do, the importance of Jerusalem, the Holy Land, the Palestinians and the Jews all coming together, and reunification and everybody loving each other. And now we're in the era of the fourth Israel. The first, second, and third could not fulfill. That's because they hadn't got Reverend Moon. Now with the fourth Israel, we must bring north, south, east, and west, beyond race and religion. That's Moon, committed to help Islam and Judaism and Christianity to unite and reconcile. Victory came at the Jerusalem Declaration. That's his Jerusalem Declaration. And through this effort, true parents brought victory again on the march for peace in Israel and Palestine. Now all can become one. He started off his interest, although he's had different focuses of concern. Korea primarily, and there's a great big place in Korea, big complex that's the center where his widow now reigns. But he focused on America and parts of America. But the Jerusalem has always been an important part. And right back in 1965, he went around the world establishing holy grounds. And here's the one that he established, Gethsemane. There's a current subgroup in the Unification Church. I don't know if George knows about them, and we'll talk about them. But they are very interested in Palestine and Israel becoming united, and they're redrawing boundaries. And one of their seminarians, or one of their professors at the seminary, is having conversations with Ararat in the spirit world. And this is how they're sorting all this out. And this is part of the map. They've got a lot of maps. And I'd like to finish, and I don't know if George wants to sing this, but Jerusalem is also in England. And one of our most important rituals in England, we've got the Queen, and we have sort of pomp and ceremony, but there's nothing really to beat the last night of the proms. The proms, promenade concerts, where classical music of a popular kind and new kinds are played. But we always end with Jerusalem, Blake's Jerusalem. And did those feet in ancient time walk upon England's mountains green? And was the Holy Lamb of God on England's pleasant pastures seen? And did the countenance divine shine forth upon our clouded hills? And was Jerusalem builded here among those dark satanic mills? That's the dark satanic mills. Bring me my bow of burning gold, bring me my arrows of desire, bring me my spear, O clouds unfold, bring me my chariots of fire. I will not cease from mental fight, nor shall my sword sleep in my hand, till we have built Jerusalem. And you go, Jerusalem, in England's green and pleasant land. And at that time, not only in the Albert Hall, but in sitting rooms all over England and perhaps even in Scotland, people are waving their flags and singing out of tune and in tune. It's a real ritual, and it's Jerusalem. And I don't know how many other Brits there are here, but George, you'll bear me out, won't you? You better. No, I probably wouldn't find the Jehovah's Witnesses there. Okay, well, to conclude, very briefly, I've suggested that Jerusalem embodies the religious and the secular, the ancient and the modern, peace and conflict, silence and bustle, joy and tears, pride and shame, belonging and separating, east and west, rural and urban, dreaming and awakening, hope and fear, rich and poor, a symbol and a city, the many and the one. Jerusalem is everywhere, and Jerusalem is here. Thank you, and enjoy.
We have some time for questions and answers, so if there are any questions, please raise your hand. Massimo.
Just a question. We heard already yesterday about this song, but can you tell us more? Because it seems it's somewhat obvious for the Brits, but for us, we are not Brits. It's not obvious where did this song about Jerusalem and the British pasture lands. It was mentioned yesterday already, but we don't know the story, not being Brits, of this song. So perhaps you can explain when and where it originated.
I don't know. I mean, I'm a believer. That's a participant. So I've just always done it. I mean, it's reality. It's life. As a child, we all learnt the poem. We all sang it at school, at the end of term. I never really thought about it. It's just sort of part of being British. And I'm Scottish. We did it in Scotland, too. I don't know if the Irish do it. Probably not all of the Irish, anyway. Possibly not all of the Scots now. I mean, it was by Blake, the poet. I'm sorry, I just don't know.
I think it's partly connected to the Joseph of Arimathea legends. Somebody's doing Glastonbury.
Oh, this is
He's
Glastonbury.
a tin merchant, and he takes little Jesus. Mary, his mother, is Joseph is his uncle, and they travel to the British Isles regularly. That's how it begins, and I would date that probably 13th century, but somebody might know. Maybe not.
Yeah, there's
that
the
early.
hawthorn tree, which is where he put
Oh, yeah.
his
Yeah.
stake in the ground. And the same old original one, I've seen it.
So it could be that Blake has picked up on this, growing up.